Bitch ass nigga wanna say something about my mama. Your mama dead as fuck, nigga. Your mama dead as fuck. Go dig her up. Go dig her up. Fuck. Post a picture of your motherfucking mama, nigga. She dead, nigga. Pay respect, nigga. Stop fucking playing with my mama, nigga. Nigga ain't playing like that. Nigga ain't going like that, nigga. How y'all bitch ass niggas raised? I'm not raised like that. I'm not going about my mama, nigga.
50 Cent just caught Lil King lacking, and King brought it on himself. Because this man, Tia's own son, looked dead into the camera and told 50 Cent to go dig up his dead mother. On camera. And what King did not know, what he clearly did not stop to think about for even 1 second, is that 50 Cent's mother was murdered when he was 8 years old, drugged, left unconscious. Her apartment set on fire, no suspects, no justice, no closure. 8 years old, gang. So now, 50 is locked in, gloves off. And this ain't about a Verzuz no more. This ain't about T.I. backing out of an agreement. This is personal in a way that doesn't go away, and King just handed 50 Cent every reason he needs to bury this whole family in the court of public opinion. But here's what y'all need to understand. This didn't start with King. This started way before that. And once I break down the full timeline from the beginning, you're gonna see exactly how a simple handshake deal between two hip-hop legends spiraled into one of the most reckless moments we've seen online in a long time. Let's get into it. Aight fam, let's rewind the tape. Because this didn't start with King. This started with two grown men who apparently had a handshake deal, and one of them allegedly decided to act like that conversation never happened. Here's the thing about 50 Cent that people always underestimate. This man plans. He is not the type to just randomly call somebody out on the internet for sport. No cap. When 50 moves, there's usually a reason. There's usually a setup. There's usually a bigger picture that he's been sitting on for a minute before he lets it loose. So when the whole 50 Cent versus T.I. Verzuz conversation started floating around, people thought it came out of nowhere. But according to T.I. himself, breaking it down in his own words on camera, that's not how it went down at all. Picture this. These two are in LA together, moving around, handling business, talking about TV shows, industry moves, all that executive level stuff. And somewhere in between those conversations, the idea of a Verzuz battle gets brought up between them. Now, a 50 Cent versus T.I. Verzuz, that's a generational event, gang. You're talking about two of the defining artists of the 2000s. Two men who both had iron grips on hip-hop at the same time from completely different coasts and completely different worlds. The East Coast street anthems versus the South's trap royalty. That's not just a battle, that's a cultural reckoning. And by T.I.'s account, they didn't just casually mention it. They agreed to it. T.I. says he told 50 straight up, "I'll jump out there first, you follow me in, and we'll line it up." 50 supposedly said, "All right, cool. That's a deal. That's a man's word." So T.I. jumps out. He makes his move publicly. He signals that this thing is happening. And 50 Cent acts like he never heard a word of it. Now here's where the character questions start piling up, at least from T.E.'s perspective. In T.I.'s mind, this wasn't just a music industry negotiation that fell through. This was a man looking him in the eye, shaking on something, and then vanishing into thin air when it was time to deliver. And if you know anything about T.I., the Atlanta King, the self-proclaimed King of the South, you know that is the one thing that will get under his skin the deepest. It ain't even about the battle no more at that point, and it's about respect. T.I. went on record and said it plainly. He has no interest in standing on a stage with 50 Cent anymore. Not because he's scared of the catalog matchup, not because he doesn't believe in himself, but because, in his eyes, 50 showed him something about his character. And what he showed him, he don't respect it. Now that is a different kind of diss. That ain't "your music is mid." That ain't "your albums didn't sell." That's "I looked at who you are as a man and I found you lacking." That hits different. So T.I. starts releasing music, starts making public statements. He dropped bars clearly aimed at this whole situation, signaling to the world that as far as he's concerned, the deal is dead, the respect is gone, and he's perfectly fine putting it all on wax. And 50 Cent? Oh, 50 didn't miss it. See, this is what people forget about 50 Cent. The man is not just a rapper. He is a psychological warfare specialist. He has been trolling people on social media since before trolling was even a recognized art form. He pioneered an entire genre of internet beef that involves unflattering photos, strategic mockery, and the kind of calculated chaos that gets under your skin and stays there for months. And when T.I. started making noise about the Verzuz falling apart and questioning 50's character publicly, 50 didn't sit down and write a deeply personal diss track about it. He did what 50 Cent does, and he went on his Instagram and he got goofy with it, finding the most unflattering photos, dropping shrug emojis, responding to T.I.'s whole serious energy with the vibe of a man who genuinely could not be bothered to take any of this personally. It's the most disrespectful thing you can do to somebody who's trying to be taken seriously. Treat their very real grievances like a punchline. And that right there is what set the stage for everything that followed. Because while 50 and T.I. are doing this back and forth, this grown man, multi-millionaire, hip-hop legend energy, somebody else was watching. Somebody young. Somebody with something to prove. Somebody who loves his daddy and his mama. Now look, let's be fair to Lil King for a second before we get into what happened. This is a young man watching somebody troll his father on the internet. And not just anybody, 50 Cent. A man with a massive platform, a massive audience, and a very specific gift for making people look ridiculous online. And there's a version of this story where King just sits back, lets the grown men handle it, and keeps his name out of the mud. That was absolutely an option available to him. But here's the thing about being young and having blood in your veins. Sometimes the brain gets overruled real fast. And when 50 Cent's trolling energy started bleeding in the direction of the family, when King felt like his people were being disrespected, he made a decision. He clapped back. Now the initial back and forth was one thing. Edgy, young energy, a son defending his father's honor. People could understand that even if they thought he should have stayed out of it. The internet was watching, mildly amused, waiting to see where this was going. But then something shifted, because in the process of going at 50 Cent, going at a man who grew up without his mother, who lost her in one of the most tragic, violent, and senseless ways imaginable, King decided to bring her into it, and that's when the whole situation entered a completely different category. Let's talk about Sabrina Jackson, because you cannot understand the full weight of what happened here without understanding who she was and what her loss meant. Sabrina Jackson was 50 Cent's mother. She was murdered in 1983. 50 Cent was 8 years old. 8 years old, gang. She was a drug dealer, operating in a world full of danger. And she was drugged, left unconscious, and killed in what was ruled a suspected homicide. Her apartment was set on fire. Nobody was ever charged. No known suspects. No closure. No justice. 8 years old, and that boy lost his mother to violence and fire and silence. He was raised by his grandparents after that. And if you've ever listened to 50 Cent's music, really, listen, you can hear that wound running all the way through it. The hunger, the paranoia, the chip on the shoulder that never fully went away. A lot of that traces back to 1983, to a little boy who grew up without his mother and had to build himself from scratch in the hardest possible environment. That is not a punchline. That is not ammunition. That is a man's deepest, most irreversible sorrow. And King went there. He went fully, loudly, unapologetically there, saying 50's mother is dead, telling him to go dig her up, mocking him to post a picture, all of it on camera, all of it for the internet to see. Now, and let's keep it completely 100 here. As far as the logic of internet beef goes, some people would argue that if you're going to swing at someone, you swing at everything available. That's the ugly reality of how these things escalate. The commentator breaking this situation down even admitted that's the kind of mudslinging that happens when beef goes to the gutter. But there's a reason why certain things are supposed to stay off limits. Because a dead mother isn't a rap battle point. She's a real person. She was someone's child. She was murdered. And she never said a word to anybody in this beef. She's been gone for over 40 years. When you go there, you're not just talking to 50 the celebrity. You're talking to that 8-year-old boy who lost everything and had to grow up in the wreckage. And 50 Cent heard every word. Here's what makes 50 Cent genuinely dangerous in this situation. And I want y'all to really absorb this. 50 Cent does not react out of pure emotion. That is not his style. This is a man who has gone toe-to-toe with J. Rule, with the game, with Floyd Mayweather, with Rick Ross, and with countless others. And in every single one of those situations, he played the long game. He gathered information, he gathered leverage, and then he deployed it with surgical precision at the moment it would do the most damage. So when King crossed that line, yes, 50 acknowledged it. But the real response isn't going to be a single Instagram post. The real response is going to be a campaign. Because now the stakes have shifted completely. This isn't about a Verzuz anymore. This isn't about who backed out of what agreement. This isn't even really about T.I. at this point. Because King just made it personal in a way that goes way beyond industry politics. If 50 Cent decides to go full throttle, and every sign points to him doing exactly that, he's not going to limit this to music. He's going to dig. He's going to find every lawsuit, every legal issue, every uncomfortable headline. He's going to do what he does best, which is turn someone's life into a running internet commentary that follows them everywhere they go. And he has an enormous, loyal, deeply entertained audience that will amplify every single move he makes. The commentator breaking this down put it perfectly. If you were willing to go after a man's deceased mother, you have officially made this a no-rules situation. And in a no-rules situation against 50 Cent, the history of hip-hop suggests that is not a position you want to be in. Now let's zoom out for a second and address the original question that started all of this, because it actually matters to understanding the full picture. Would a 50 Cent versus T.I. Verzuz have been worth watching? No cap? Yes. Absolutely yes. But here's the nuance that people keep glossing over. The outcome of that battle would depend entirely on where you're sitting when you watch it. If you're in Atlanta, if you grew up on trap music, on King, on Paper Trail, those anthems that defined a whole era of Southern hip-hop, then T.I. is winning that room. No question. He is the king of the South in that building and everybody in that building knows it. But if you're on the East Coast, if you grew up on Get Rich or Die Trying, if the sound of In Dog Club is physically attached to some of the best memories of your early 2000s, then 50 Cent is taking that room and there's nothing T.I. can do about it. West Coast, 50 takes it there too, according to most reads of the landscape. So the real problem with this Verzuz was never the talent gap. There isn't one, not really. The problem was always going to be geography and audience. You'd need to hold this thing somewhere genuinely neutral, which is honestly its own logistical headache. And now it's never happening. Not after all of this. Not after King's comments. Not after the line that got crossed. T.I.'s already said publicly he has zero interest in sharing a stage with 50 Cent, and that was before his son went viral for the wrong reasons. What's alive now is something messier, louder, and a lot more complicated. Let's pull all the way back and talk about what this situation actually represents, because it goes deeper than just one family beef. Hip-hop has always had its code of conduct, even when things got violent. Even in the worst eras of East Coast-West Coast tension, there were things that serious artists understood you didn't do. You didn't bring innocent people into it. You didn't go after somebody's kids, and you definitely didn't speak on somebody's deceased relatives. That code has been eroding for years. Social media accelerated the erosion. The internet rewards the most shocking take, the most extreme post, the moment that makes people drop their phones and scream at the screen. And in that environment, the old rules start feeling like optional guidelines rather than actual boundaries. What happened with King is a symptom of that erosion. He's young, he's passionate, he loves his father, and he got caught up in a moment where the internet's reward system, the views, the comments, the reactions, made going to the absolute extreme feel like the power move. But here's what the culture has to reckon with. When we strip away every guardrail from beef, when nothing is sacred and everything is a weapon, we lose something important. We lose the ability to separate the art from the ugliest human impulses. And we turn what could be great competitive energy, two legends battling over whose catalog holds more weight, into something that just hurts people. 50 Cent's mother was a real woman who died a real death under real terrible circumstances. Using that as a diss isn't clever, it isn't cold, it isn't impressive lyricism or strategic warfare, it's just cruelty, and the internet needs to stop rewarding cruelty by treating it like elite battle rap. King is young, he can learn from this. The question is whether the response he gets from 50 Cent will teach him that lesson or just escalate everything further into territory that nobody benefits from. So where does this all land, gang? T.I. had a real grievance. 50 Cent allegedly agreed to something and then walked it back. In the world of men and their word, that matters. T.I. expressing his frustration publicly? Defensible. Putting it in music? That's what rappers do. That's the art form working the way it's supposed to work. But the moment his son brought a murdered woman into the conversation, a woman who died before most of us were even born, a woman whose death shaped one of the most important artists in hip-hop history into who he became, that's the moment where whatever justified grievance T.I. had got buried under an avalanche of bad decisions. Now 50 Cent has every reason to go as hard as he wants for as long as he wants. And he will, because that's who 50 Cent is. That man does not forget. That man does not move on until he decides to move on. And right now, he has not decided to move on. The internet is going to be watching every single post, every single diss, every single calculated troll move for the foreseeable future. And somewhere in all of this noise, buried underneath the chaos and the clout chasing and the unflattering photos and the shrug emojis, is the memory of a woman named Sabrina Jackson who deserved better than to become content. That's the part that should make all of us sit with this a little differently. Let me know your thoughts, y'all. Was King wrong to say what he said? Should he have stayed completely out of his father's beef? Or when somebody comes for your family, do all the rules go out the window? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear where y'all really stand on this one. We out.